Busy Friday afternoon on Capitol Hill. You see Speaker of the House at the moment, Mike Johnson, there after losing the first speaker vote. He hopes that he will get it after the second vote. And again, we are learning information now as we speak. So instead of me giving you updates, I'm going to bring in someone who knows. We're going to bring in former New York Congressman Peter King. We're also going to bring in former New York Congressman Anthony D'Esposito and politics editor for the Daily Signal, Bradley Devlin. Congressman, I do want to go to you first, right here with us on set, because I know you just found something out.
Yeah, so what my colleagues on the floor are saying is that Self and Norman went to the well and changed their votes. So it appears that Speaker Johnson is duly elected Speaker of the House, so they won't be going to a second round.
Oh, so they've actually changed their votes again, so we don't have to go through the whole yay or nay process again.
That's right,
what it sounds like.
Congressman King here, that first vote technically never ended, so they never gavelled it down. Johnson goes into the cloakroom, has a discussion with Self, has a discussion with Norman. Self went with Donalds the first time, Norman, Jim Jordan, and that has now changed. So what did that discussion, what was that like? Do you think Donald Trump played a factor in that? Take us through what you're thinking.
I'm speaking from a distance, but I'm sure President Trump has something to do with that. I'm sure that there was some understanding that was reached. To me, the whole thing makes no sense. I'm glad to see my good friend Anthony D'Esposito there. No, this to me, I have no idea what these people were looking for. You're never going to get 100%. And if all of us held back on our votes for Speaker because we didn't agree with the Speaker on every issue, we'd never have a Speaker. The fact is, you try to find a consensus. Mike Johnson satisfies that consensus. So to me, this was just it was a bridge to nowhere. I had no idea what they were planning. And whatever Mike said to them back in the cloakroom, I'm glad it worked.
Yeah, and again, we're looking here at first. It was reported that Johnson did not win the first ballot to retain the speakership. However, two members of Congress, Congressman Norman and Self, changed their votes, and therefore Johnson appears to have won the speakership on the first ballot. We can listen into the floor. Lots of hugs and handshakes being shared.
And the Honorable Tom Emmer of the state of Minnesota has received one. Therefore, the Honorable Mike Johnson of the state of Louisiana, having received a majority of the votes cast, is duly elected Speaker of the House of Representatives for the 119th Congress. The clerk appoints the following committee to escort the Speaker-elect to the chair. The gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Scalise. The gentleman from New York, Mr. Jeffries. The gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Emmer. The gentlewoman from Massachusetts, Ms. Clark. The gentlewoman from Michigan, Mrs. McClain. The gentleman from California, Mr. Aguilar. The gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Hudson. The gentleman from California, Mr. Liu. The gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Hearn. The gentleman from Colorado, Mr. Neguse. The gentleman from Utah, Mr. Moore. The gentlewoman from Washington, Ms. Delbene. The gentlewoman from Indiana, Mrs. Houchin. The gentleman from New York, Mr. Morelli. The gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Reschenthaler. The gentlewoman from Michigan, Mrs. Dingle.
Okay, welcome back in. We're listening to the pomp and circumstance now. Congressman D'Esposito, take us through. They're going to walk out. They're going to come back in. Johnson's going to assume the seat again.
Correct, yes. So they're going to announce his escort committee, which usually consists of leadership on both sides of the aisle, as well as could be committee chairs or close advisors to the Speaker that he feels has gotten him into this place. And then he will come up. He will assume the Speaker's chair, which that chair that they'll use today is only taken out once every 2 years, or once when there's an election of a Speaker, and then there's one that we use for the everyday. And Mike Johnson will be able to take the oath, and then he will bestow the oath to the members of the 119th Congress.
What does this symbolize for the Republicans?
So I think that, while over the last, hour and a half or 2 hours, we were concerned that the Republican Party was entering down this road of looking like we can't figure ourselves out and get along. I think this is a good view into what the next 4 years under President Trump is going to be. We have a unified front. We have Republicans who are willing to go to battle, who are willing to compromise because they want to put President Trump's America First agenda into play. They want to grow our economy. They want to secure our border. They want to make America safe again. And right now, it took us a couple hours, but nonetheless, we elected Mike Johnson Speaker on the first ballot. And I think that is a great indicator of where this party is headed under President Trump.
All right, let's bring back in our other guest, Bradley Devlin, former Congressman Peter King, into the conversation. Congressman, okay, it's changed quickly. Last time we talked, we didn't know. Now we know. Well, I guess we did know. Talk about what this means, build off of what Congressman D'Esposito was talking about, what this means for the MAGA movement. Donald Trump clearly believes he can work with Mike Johnson. Everyone's worried about spending or getting things through. Clearly, Trump thinks he's the man for the job. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think this is a first step. It's a major one. It's a major hurdle that's been overcome. And I think Donald Trump does realize that spending has to be decreased. We have to get it under control. On the other hand, he also realizes there's 219, 220 Republicans representing different districts that have different interests. I think he can balance that out best. He's going to realize that not everyone's going to get what they want, and some are going to have to give some have to get some. And so he's the best guy for that. I mean, he's from New York. He knows how to make deals. But he also knows that you never get 100%. And that, is, to me, is the mindset we need. You fight for as hard as you can, for as much as you can obtain, and then you make the deal. Anyone who looks for the perfect ends up getting nothing. So I think Donald Trump is perfect for that. And whatever role he had played today in getting Mike Johnson elected, to me, was a really positive first step. So I'm entirely on board with what Anthony said.
Bradley, you are the politics editor at the Daily Signal. So tell us about the signal here that you are getting after a lot of noise today.
I am absolutely shocked that these two members, Representative Keith Self and Representative Ralph Norman, went to the well to change their votes when everyone's just assumed that this vote was going to be gavelled out. I mean, these two other gentlemen know better than I do. Listen, as long as the House figured out the speaker situation today, it was going to be fine. I would have, if I was in Self's shoes or in Norman's shoes, held out a little bit more. See what concessions you can get from the speaker. They've already gotten some softer commitments that Speaker Mike Johnson released today on X. And I would have said, listen, I don't think you need to make Chip Roy chairman of the Rules Committee so that Roy has an effective veto over what you want to bring to the floor. But hey, Andy Harris, the chairman of the Freedom Caucus, he's on the Appropriations Committee. And the Appropriations Committee has worked to undermine you, Speaker Mike Johnson, and your conservative reputation. So give us a few more people on the Appropriations Committee. We don't need to have a majority of the Republicans on there, but just give us a few more. So I don't understand why they went to the well. I'm shocked that they did. I think it's really good for President Trump. And at the same time, some of these members who withhold their support for Mike Johnson despite Trump's endorsement are often strong supporters of the MAGA agenda. And that's this weird situation that Republicans find themselves in, is that Trump has allied himself with Mike Johnson because Mike Johnson seems to be good at managing his membership. But at the same time, sometimes that moderate caucus of the membership pulls Mike Johnson away from some of the conservative priorities that Trump wants to see make it through Congress. The reason I don't think it's a big deal is all the House does after this is, Mike Johnson will give a speech. They pass a little tiny rules package, so they'll let them do some other work in the next few weeks, and then they'll pass more comprehensive rules. So this could have been dragged out a little bit longer. I'm shocked that it ended on the first ballot.
Congressman D'Esposito, that first vote started, well, there was only one vote, started at 1 o'clock. It's now 12:42.
A bit longer. I'm shocked that it ended on the first ballot.
Congressman D'Esposito, that first vote started, well, there was only one vote, started at 1 o'clock. It's now 12:42. I'd say that was about an hour and 42 minutes.
2:42, yeah.
2:42, I'm sorry. Bad PR for House Republicans to the voters. That's what this is about, the American people, the vote that they made on November 5th. How do House Republicans change and ensure some real agenda, some real policy things happen from President Trump moving forward? What do you think?
So I think it's exactly what we just saw from the Republican conference. They took time to speak to one another. They had some compromise, and they made a decision that was in the best interest of the Republican Party and moving forward Trump's agenda. And I think that that's exactly where we're headed. And quite frankly, those of us that have been watching this over the last hour and 42 minutes, for a lot of Americans, when they turn on the 5 o'clock news, the news is going to be that the Republican Party elected a Republican speaker in Mike Johnson, who is going to help put forth the Trump agenda in the Republican Senate and leading up to certifying the election on January 6th and the inauguration in less than 2 weeks from now. I think that's what the American people are going to read about an hour and 42 minutes after we've gone through 19 speaker votes in the last 2 years, I think is a step in the right direction for the Republican Party.
Congressman King, do you agree with Bradley? Are you surprised that some of these members changed their votes as opposed to asking for more? We also know that Mike Johnson said he was not going to be doing negotiating.
I'm coming at it from a different angle. I don't think that 1.5% of the party caucus, the party conference, should be holding up the entire party. And you should be giving in to them. The fact is they had a vote in November. The fact is that 98.5% of Republicans supported Mike Johnson, and to allow 3 people, 1.5%, to be holding that up, to me, it's a terrible precedent to set. President Trump is the leader. He's the one who should be given the opportunity to go through. And listen, not everything that President Trump supports is supported by the Freedom Caucus. There's going to be interesting issues going forward. But he is the president. He's the one that we've elected. I go back to the days of Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill, where Reagan was the most conservative, effective president we ever had. But he made compromises to get things done. So long as you're going in the right direction, getting as much as possibly as you can with a divided country. Remember, we have less than 51% of the votes in the House. So that reflects the American people. That has to be taken into account when you're going forward. I think Donald Trump understands that. He understood it in the campaign, and he's going to be able to bring us, I think, to real success in the House, the Senate, and in the country.
Got to leave it there. Congressman King, Bradley Devlin, Congressman D'Esposito, we appreciate the analysis. And,
excellent analysis.
Yes,
thank you.
This happened. Mike Johnson, okay.